Hey everybody, it's Tuesday.
You all said Thursday.
I did
but it's
not.
not.
Wishful thinking.
And welcome to this week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Emily. And we are so excited to be here with you tonight.
Yeah.
Many of us are right between that change of season. So, that always leaves a lot for us to talk about. So, first of all, we are interested in where you guys are and what season it is, because there are people that still have ice and it feels like winter. And there are people that are right on into spring. So, let us know where you're at and what that looks like for you. And for us, we always like to try to give a little report. And so in our part of Wisconsin, well, we haven't been on the water here, so I actually can't give that much information.
Well, I mean, just keeping track of everybody, over by us, we are in proximity to Lake Michigan, as many of you know. So we have Lake Winnebago, Lake Michigan, walleye runs going on. So we're blessed to be able to fish for them while they're doing their thing. And so that's what everybody's else out doing right now. People are coming from Minnesota and Michigan and wherever you want to come from to come play with some walleyes and maybe get a big picture of one. So
well, and where we are at on the Wolf, we are noticing, actually, I guess as per a usual spring, the water conditions, the water levels are high. And that's a good thing. So, the other thing that's happening though is we had those water temps that were starting to warm up, but then a cold front kind of settled in and just kind of held things in place, so we have those high water levels, those river fish are up in those marshes, but I think in the end of this week, we're going to get a little bit of that warmer water again. It's going to kind of push things through. And I think fish are going to start moving again.
Yeah, I was actually at work. I was just out doing some water sampling, and some of the bigger waters that I sample for work, we're at like 5 degrees Celsius, which is about 42 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're sticking around there. The good thing for us is that, the longer this weather stays a little bit chilly, the slower the walleye spawn goes. So we're able to get in on it again. We did mess around a little bit in Illinois in some ponds and caught some bluegills. So that was fun.
Well, and that's exactly what I was going to say is, I think a lot of people travel for the holidays and are seeing families and all of that kind of stuff. And that's something that we identify with a lot. We went down and we saw my family, but being closer to the city, there are just a bunch of like tiny ponds and stuff by all the neighborhoods. And, sometimes people look at those tiny ponds and really underestimate them. And so we always like to go out there and catch the bluegills and all that kind of stuff. So, we actually just, it's fun because one of the best things about that is we just keep collapsible fishing rods like in the car, like nothing fancy there. It's like not a name brand.
They're like gimmick rods.
I can't even say it's like from Amazon. It's not even that good. It's like the Wish app special or something. Like I don't know where do you get stuff like that.
I don't even remember.
But they're cute. They're like fish shaped. It has like a little cover. And our own reel can go on it and line, and that's a huge part of that. So we just go out and catch little fish, and we love having that in the car because even when you don't expect to fish, sometimes you end up with that option.
Yeah. So the bait that was working was a bobber stop that I dug out from in between the seats, and I put it on a jig head that I found on the floor, and the bluegill loved it.
That's how it goes, because we're not going to buy worms for like a 1 hour outing. No. And we amazingly, out of all the plastics that exist in our lives, it gets stuck in our pockets and we had none with us.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
No, it was still fun.
So I guess with that, let us know how your Easter went. Let us know how your weekends are going. Let us know how fishing is going for you and what you are fishing for, because we do love hearing about that. Oh, Craig, that is a nice walleye in your picture, by the way. That popped up my screen. I saw that. But we are here to talk a little bit more fishing. So let's bring in our guest. And Dave, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks, Emily. Thanks, Josh. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So just in case there's anybody that doesn't know you yet, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So name's Dave Wasness. I'm in West Fargo, North Dakota, and I do all kinds of fishing, tournament fishing, fun fishing. I'm the vice president of FM Walleyes, a local club here in town, and we do a lot of youth education. So a lot of kids clinics and events that we partner up with Fargo Parks, Moorhead Parks, River Keepers, and other nonprofits in town to really promote fishing to the next generation.
That is really awesome. And honestly, we sometimes line up shows based on like cool things that we've seen on Facebook recently. And so we were watching kind of the end of your ice season, and it looked like a really great time. So I think that there's a lot of people that are a little bit sick of ice, but I think that there's so many awesome adventures yet to share. So let's start there. And can you tell us about how your ice season went?
Yeah, so well, the winter, as everybody knows, was cold, a lot of snow, slush on the ice, difficult to get around. But I was able to get out, had a great season for panfish, for walleyes. But I think the best time I had was my trip to Fort Peck, Montana. I went with a few of my buddies. We filmed a show for Northland Outdoors, and we caught a few fish. The fishing could have been better, but man, that trip was fantastic. We just it was early March. They had some warmer weather. We weren't sure about the ice conditions, if we were going to have to cancel or not. We did have a few other friends cancel just because they were unsure about the ice, but then a cold front came through, and that helped with the ice. So we drove out there to fish, but it really sort of shut down the fishing activity. We were able to find some fish. We got some fish for pictures and video, but it was a difficult bite, a tough bite to say the least.
And so people who are maybe a little bit unfamiliar with that area or all of that, can you remind us what you're fishing for?
Sure. So lake trout, fishing for lake trout, and with lake trout, you're targeting them in deep water. We were looking at anywhere from 45 feet all the way down to 90 feet. And you're able to target them in deep water because they burp the air out as they're coming up to the surface. So they're not going to come up where they're just going to die. You're able to fish for them in deep water, something that you can't really do with walleyes or some of those other fish, because we've all seen the walleyes come from deep water and they end up dying. But lake trout's a little different, and it's a lot of fun. I do have some baits here that I'll share. We use big baits. Like this is a 1 ounce tube jig with a spinner on the end. The best.
I like those pink beads in there, by the way.
Yeah, there's some pink beads, some pink hair there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, that was a good one. The best one for us was hair jigs. So this is a 1/2 ounce Northland Bionic bucktail jig, and that tend to work the best. Followed by
okay, wait, hold on. Before you go,
yep.
Are you using it with that stinger hook, or that just like preset up for walleyes too?
No, I'm using it with that steering hook. That's part of the jig.
Oh, okay.
Your big hook in the center, and then that stinger hook. That's same with that tube jig. Has a big treble hook here, stinger hook at the end, and then your traditional large jig there. So, but these trout, if you didn't have a Mega Live or Garmin Panoptics or the Lowrance Active Target, all those different names for the live units, if you didn't have one, it was very difficult to catch a fish. It was so cool watching the fish on those live units, because when we're on a rock bar, we can see 80 feet out, and you can see how the rock is structured. And we'll see a trout come in, and they hide right by a rock 50, 60 feet away from your bait. And as you're jigging, that trout will dart out and just come in like a freight train. And if you're not reeling up to allow that trout to chase that bait, you're going to miss that bite. So that traditional 2D sonar just was not working. By the time you saw it on the 2D, they'd swing and you'd miss them. So that was key for us, is using a live unit to see that fish coming in ahead of time.
That is really a unique application for that. I mean, so often people think of fishing that you can just see the bite, feel the bite, somehow detect it, catch that fish. But I think, being able to use that technology in a way to anticipate a fish, especially a species that's so large, because people think that they'll grab the hook and like run with it, but I mean the same thing, that they can grab it and like go up, and then you have to be, like you're saying, reeling up, anticipating what's going to happen in order to make that actual hookup.
Yeah, if you weren't reeling up, you'd get a lot of slack line in the water, and then they just spit the hook out. So very important to reel up as fast as you can as that fish came in. And like I said, with the 2D sonar, it was just by the time you marked it, it was too late. You weren't reeling up fast enough.
Well, and one of the things that I do also love hearing about is, sometimes when people go out and it isn't super easy to catch them because, I mean, unless you're like Clayton Schick up in, Canada or something, like who goes out and just could like smash trout like that? I mean, maybe people are out there. That's why guides exist. People have those expertise. But I think so often, even the average person, the average fisherman, they go out, they try it, and it's not necessarily just as easy as setting the hook all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said earlier, we had that cold front come in, and that really shuts down a bite. And the ice was changing throughout the day. We'd drive out, we'd cross a pressure ridge, and we'd follow our trail. We had a lot of electronics with to mark trails so that we'd have a safe path to go home at the end of fishing. Well, we'd get to those pressure ridges, and it's like, well, the trail shows that we crossed here, and now the pressure ridge is open, where we've got 2 feet of open water plus another 10 feet of water on top of the ice. So we can't cross there. Had to find a new path, and we had to make sure that we allowed plenty of daylight time to get back to the truck, because we certainly didn't want to be on that ice at dark when the ice has moved so much.
Well, and that's a really great point, because I think that, those people that do still have ice out there, I mean, that's crazy to be talking about mid to the end of April, but it's happening. Or even those people who are starting to get out onto these rivers, even the rivers, as they are melting, you never know what kind of debris is coming down. And it's one thing to have lights and be prepared, and like you're saying, maps. But in either of these situations, these are great times to be leaving early when you still have daylight and can see kind of the conditions that you're dealing with, because they are changing fast, no matter if you're on open water or ice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just the last weekend I was out on the Missouri River down by Chamberlain, and water temps started the morning about 38, 39, and would warm up to about 40, 41. If we were up shallow, 6 feet of water, it'd be 42, almost 43. The fish had not spawned yet, full of eggs. Had some good luck there. There was I wasn't part of the tournament, but there was a 150 boat tournament that was going on that Saturday, and the NWT, I believe, will be there. I think it's next weekend. Next weekend shortly. So I'm sure they're out there pre-fishing now. But we had wicked wind that really stirred up the mud, and finding clean water was really key for us in catching fish. And then really dragging that jig. They didn't want much movement. They wanted the jig dragging on the bottom, and the walleyes would come over and pick it up off the bottom.
That's I'm just sitting here thinking that's a really cool comparison to something that we had happen to a totally different species, a totally different setup. So Emily's parents live in kind of like a development. And so they have these holding ponds, and the holding ponds have bass and bluegill in it, from what we know, and goldfish. And, so we don't expect to catch much out of there, but the wind was blowing one way one day. And I went out and brought the dog out for a walk and made some casts along the shore. And there's some nice bluegill in there, but they were all pushed up against the shore where the wind was pushing into. Well, then the next day Emily was able to sneak out with me, and then the wind was coming from an opposite direction. And we went back to that same shoreline that I was getting all my bites, and the water was clear and you couldn't buy a bite. But then we went to the opposite shoreline, and it was super muddy. And like you said, like the fish, they didn't want it moving around very much. They just wanted it just moving with the wind. But it was like such dirty water. But it had more to do with temperature. And that's something this time of year is like probably the biggest factor, is just wherever you can find the warm water. I think the fish are really gonna key in on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then what did you say were the baits that were working for you?
So down in Chamberlain, the best one was the Northland Fishing Tackle Deep V jig. You can see that
Yeah,
V
that's actually
shape
pretty
there.
sweet.
It really cut through the current good, and this is a 3/8 ounce jig, so it was heavier, and we were sort of floating with the current, trying to keep our baits as vertical as possible. And after a while, once we realized that they didn't want movement, they just want it dragging on the bottom, we just busted out the rod holders, threw the rods in the rod holders, and just allowed the rod tip to start skipping on the bottom there until a fish would pick up. You hold it and you're trying to jig, and if there was any movement, they didn't want anything at all. The other lure was the bucktail, the deep V bucktail, and this white, pink one was very good. Dragging that down, it just had a little more color there, and then I'd put a fathead minnow on there just so that there was a little bit of meat for the walleye to sort of pick up. They were biting light, and having a little bit of meat there just increased our odds of getting a hook.
So in those cases, are you using stinger hooks with that?
I was not. No, I had some with, but you just give them a little bit of time, and they were inhaling the jig, so didn't really need a stinger hook. If I was fishing a tournament, I'd probably put one on just to increase my odds, but I wasn't in the tournament, so I was just fun fishing and felt I didn't really need one.
Well, and I'm just laughing a little bit because, I mean, I guess it's been like a full week since I was fishing walleyes, and a lot changes in that time. But when we were out, like you were saying, the wind was crazy and boat control was really important, because in those cases we were vertical jigging, and being vertical was very important. And stinger hooks, we were using them. It was like a must. And so I'm loving hearing your feedback, where you were at, that you were dragging the bottom instead, that you were not using stinger hooks, with that minnow, that they were able to just like grab that and want that and eat that. And so I'm laughing because we talk all the time about, what's working, but for everybody, those could be slightly different things. And so kind of opening up and trying, and, I guess being prepared for those different conditions as an angler is one of the big pieces this time of the year.
Yeah, we tried plastics. We tried the power bait, the gulp, and they didn't want artificials. It had to have a fat head. They wanted some meat on that hook.
So when you're talking, when you're doing jigging stuff from the boat in the river, is 3/8 ounce like your preferred size? Is that kind of the middle of the road for you guys, or what's your kind of your size range?
Yeah, good question. For me, I'll go where I can feel the bottom when I'm jigging, and I can feel that jig hit the bottom. I'll usually start out at a 1/4 ounce in the river and go up from there as needed. We had some crazy wind down in Chamberlain, so the wind plays a role in that, as well as the wind's hitting your braid or mono, and making it a little more difficult to feel the bottom will increase a little bit. I did have 1/2 ounce and all the way up to 1 ounce jig heads with, but didn't need to go past a 3/8. I fish the Rainy River often too, and same situation there. I've got a wide assortment of jigs of all weights, because you just never know.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, and then finding the color jig along with the weight, that's always the key. Although there's those people out there, they always use the same jig and just switch up what's on it. So I mean, everyone's a little bit different there.
Yeah. I tend to favor bright colors in muddy or stained water. I'm sure you've heard that thousands of times before, which really brings me to another subject, walleye opener. That's right around the corner for Minnesota. I've got a tradition with my family. We sort of have a family gathering up at Lake of the Woods. We do a couple days of sturgeon fishing, followed by a couple days of walleye fishing. And up there, you've got your whites, your pinks that do well, and then gold, or some of those brighter colors that do well too. And We all sort of have our favorites. I think gold and pink is the favorite among many anglers up there. But I also think that a lot of people talk about those two colors, so there's more confidence in those colors.
That is a really unique opportunity, though, to also be able to fish sturgeon.
Mm-hmm.
That it is a blast to fish sturgeon. If you've never caught a sturgeon, a lake sturgeon on Rainy River, you need to get up there. It's something that once you do it once, you're going to be hooked. You're going to want to go every year. It's just something about catching a sturgeon that is older than yourself, that may even weigh as much as you do. I've brought many kids out sturgeon fishing, and they have caught fish that have been older than them, fish that they've needed help holding because they're too big. It's just so much fun, and the fight will take, even with proper gear, it can take a half hour to an hour to get those fish in the boat.
So that's a really great point. I was going to say, is that a situation where if you're new to it, you just hire a guide, or you can kind of get yourself set up and try it out?
It's very easy to get set up. I know there's a number of guides up there. I wouldn't hesitate to hire a guide. They know what they're doing. I think we even have a number of them on the Striker Pro staff team that would have open days. So check out there. But hire a guide. Otherwise, it's very similar to catfish fishing. Same type of setup, same type of rods. And sometimes you got to hold that rod to feel the bite. Other times you can let them sit in the rod holder and just wait for that bite to occur. But with sturgeon, you're looking at 45 to 72 inch, 73 inch sturgeon in that Rainy River. With side imaging nowadays, you can find those sturgeon pretty easy on the side imaging. And once you find them in those different holes in the Rainy River, the deeper holes, you just spot lock or throw anchor and throw a big hook with 3-4 worms and a couple frozen shiners on there, just a big glob of bait, and just wait for those sturgeon to pick it up off the bottom.
That is such a funny point that
Mm-hmm.
I think the average person does not realize, especially, when it comes to fishing sturgeon, because you think giant fish, it must be some giant bait, like there's some crazy predator, but that's not it at all. And actually, like you're saying, like giant glob of worms, like that really is the bait of choice.
Yeah, and I only hook the worms a couple times. I want them stretched out, moving around on the bottom. And then making sure that hook is clear so you get a good hook set when the sturgeon does pick up your ball of bait. The frozen shiners are more of a scent, the extra oil and scent in the water to have the sturgeon find your bait. That helps quite a bit.
So that's really interesting because I'm the kind of person that I put a bunch of worms on and I hook them probably more times than I should. I'm hearing you saying that like the worms are like out crawling on the bottom. That's a great visual. So when you have a sturgeon come and approach, do you need to then give them time to like get to the hook and eat it, or you see that nibble and you set the hook?
No, you'll get a good bend in that rod, and then you just start reeling. Most people are using circle hooks. So once you reel in, that circle hook turns and hooks them right in the corner. I've never had a hook get lodged deep in the mouth of a sturgeon. It's always in the cartilage, the rubbery part of their mouth. They're on the bottom, not at the front like other species, because they're really picking up food off the bottom. And I've never had an issue getting a good hook set. Just wait for that rod tip to just slowly start getting pressure on there and just pick it up out of the rod holder, or if you're holding it, and just start reeling.
And keep reeling. Because like you're saying, that is how the fight goes. So if you have never been in the situation where you fought a fish for like more than 10 minutes, this is the way to do that. That's for sure.
Yeah. A lot of fun.
Yeah, there's some great opportunities up by like the woods for sure. I think like Mr. Suthry's on our staff. He does some great guiding up there, but also down towards the cities too. Darren, what's Darren's last name? I can't remember. Three Rivers Guide Service. If you want to talk sturgeon, that guy holds the Minnesota state record, or at least did at one point broke it, and then it was broke again and again. And he thinks that it's going to get broke even again this year because he just keeps finding that there's bigger and bigger sturgeon getting caught. So that's, if you're interested in that, like, we got some good sturgeon people on our team.
Yeah, I know Donnie out of Rainy Days Guide Service. Beef, I think he might be guiding out of Cyrus still. They both guide sturgeon on Lake of the Woods. Great guides to get a hold of and check to see what their availability is. Again, if you've never gone sturgeon fishing, it's definitely a bucket list trip to go on. You'll have a blast.
Heck yeah. And if you want to come over in the fall, Emily will guide you in the fall on the Menominee.
I'm not officially a guide, so
no.
That's not actually, none of that's true. But what I was going to say is there are a lot of people that, can't make the trip or can't travel or aren't going to be on a guided trip this year or can't bring their boat. But the cool thing is there are other ways to enjoy the sturgeon because it is really unique thing. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's actually up by you guys, but certainly down here on our Wolf River system, there is a ton of sturgeon. And there's a really cool opportunity with the Wolf River cams. And they have different cameras that they put into the river system. And honestly, we're talking about how it clouds all up and everything, and rivers can be hard to see. But actually, the cams are shockingly good clarity. I don't know, like you're in a river and you can see what's going on. And so especially when the spawn gets going, there's the Bamboo Bend cam in New London that always goes in. And that is a whole bunch of fun. So if you are looking at that yourself or your kids or whoever you are with, everyone loves watching that Wolf River cam. So stay tuned because that is coming up too.
Yeah, the Wolf River cam is really awesome, and it's a great thing to put up for kids because you can see all the different kinds of species. This year we've been seeing a lot of buffalo head carp, so those are really fun to see. They have like the really dark eyes, and they're just kind of big fish. But you get to see almost everything, stuff
even
you don't.
Walked by
crayfish. You don't stuff like pike. You just don't really think of them being like mid current fish. You think of them being in the weeds and stuff. But yeah, they'll swim by. But this time of year, we're all getting geared up to watch the sturgeon spawn in it. Yeah, wolfrivercam.com. I believe he has channel on Twitch too, so you can put it on your TV. That's what Emily and I do. We like to put it on our TV, and it's just sturgeon swimming around underwater. So the AquaView cameras he runs are pretty good, and we'll actually be talking to him on Thursday.
Yeah,
he'll be telling us all about his cameras.
So awesome. Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
But I was mentioning like share with your family, share with your kids. But Dave, you have all kinds of experience sharing fishing with families and kids of all kinds. So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing there?
Sure. So FM Walleyes Unlimited is a club here in town that I'm a part of. And we've got a lot of stuff coming up. We've got during the summer, we've got some fishing derbies that we put on. So the Red River is basically in our backyard. That's right here in town. And we've got kids that come out for derbies that we co-host with river keepers. We've got a clinic, so they learn what type of fish are in the river, some of the safety lists that we go through, wearing life jackets and so forth, fish handling, all knot tying, casting, a lot of those different activities. And then we go in and do a fishing derby where we provide a bunch of fishing rods, tackle, and bait. And they do a derby for an hour, and we record what they catch. And then we have an award ceremony. So we've got a couple different derbies. We also help the Fargo Park District in town for their Trout Fest. That is the summer there's a pond, the Woodhaven Pond. I believe it's a North Pond. There's two of them that have some trout in that pond, and they teach the kids about fly fishing. And then they've got a derby that goes on for an hour and a half or so with an award ceremony afterwards. So quite a few different clinics. And then with our tournaments, we usually try and have a fishing clinic at each one of our tournaments. So there's a lot of opportunities this summer for kids to learn how to fish and learn something new or polish up on their techniques. I would say follow FM Walleyes on social media. Look at all the upcoming events. There's quite a few of them for kids.
That's cool.
So a few interesting things about that though. One of the first events that you talked about sounded like it was at the river. Is that true? So you are actually teaching the kids how to river fish?
We are, yes. So I bring all of my sturgeon rods because we use them for catfish as well. So I'll stagger them every 20 feet or so. I'll put a couple chunks of sucker minnow and whatnot, worms, and throw it out there like I would for sturgeon fishing. And then they've got rods that are tied up too. They'll catch all kinds of different fish on the rods that they have, and then every once in a while one of my sturgeon rods will go off, and I just tell the kids, hey, the first one that runs to it gets to reel in whatever's on there. And they tend to catch the larger catfish on those rigs, which is pretty cool to watch the kids pull in a big catfish, whether it's a few pounds or a big like 8-9 pound catfish. So
well, and I'm glad that you expanded on that because, I know it sounds kind of like a stupid question to be like, you teach kids to river fish, but I mean, I think that there are so many differences, especially compared to like everyone grows up little red and white bobber in like a little tiny pond where there's like no wind and like a million bluegills. Like, how did we all find that space? I don't even know. But the river is so different from that. And so I think there's a lot of skill that goes into that. And for somebody to be able to take the time and explain some of those things, that's like better for everybody that's fishing around them in the long run.
Yeah, we've got many different dams within the Red River system and even the Cheyenne River. And right now is a great time to be out fishing those rivers with the walleyes coming into spawn. North Dakota walleye season does not close, so it's open year round. So they can get out and catch some nice walleyes in the red. It's not just catfish. It's not just what people would consider junk fish. Your goldeye and carp and all of that. We've got great catfish fishing. We've got great walleyes. There's even some panfish and pike that you can catch too. So.
And then if there's like adults that are listening to this, can they sign up or you like have to bring a kid?
That's a good question. So all of these are youth events. For the adults, river keepers, we will be having the first tournament through Fish Donkey. So it's going to be starting Memorial Weekend, and it will go for a full week. So if you can't get out on a weekend, but a weekday, or you want to take 2 weekends and fish, you can do so. And it's on the Red River, and we've got a payout for the largest walleye, the largest catfish, and then a bonus payout for anyone that's able to record a legal fish for the tournament. So you don't necessarily have the largest, but as long as you catch something and it's recorded, you're in for a chance of winning some money there. So we do have a tournament first time this year that will be geared towards family. You can adult, youth, whatever the case is. So it should be fun.
And, for people who are unfamiliar, can you tell us a little bit about what the Fish Donkey app is?
Sure. So it's a app that you can get on your phone, but it's a catch, record, or catch photo release style tournament. So when you catch that fish, you open the Fish Donkey app. And if you don't have service, just keep the Fish Donkey app open, because once you record that fish, put in the length, and show that fish has been released, you then upload it, and the tournament director has access to verify that fish that was recorded properly, and then it will be scored towards your stringer or your bag. And if you don't have service, once you get back into an area that does have service, all of that will be uploaded, and the tournament director will be able to see the photos at that time. So it's really cool to use. The fish are able to be released. They're not out of the water for a long period of time. And, yeah, you can keep fishing and always look to upgrade your stringer. You don't have to be stuck with just your first 5 fish.
The other thing that I do love about the Fish Donkey app also is because I like to have my own pictures of my fish. And so I hear like catch, picture, release. And it's like if I'm only taking the pictures through the app, but I want them on my own phone too. And the nice thing is that links up really, really nicely. So even though Fish Donkey never shares your location, they like never broadcast any of your information, but they do allow that you can have those pictures downloaded right onto your phone. So even if you decide that you do want to post them to like Facebook or whatever, then you can still do that.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah. So the other cool thing about the Fish Donkey app too is we talked with Darren and Bonnie, and they were telling us that they told us a neat little trick, and I've used it a few times. You can they have a tournament on there that's not really a tournament, it's just free, and it's called practice catch. And so you can open the app and you can use it while you're fun fishing, but the little tip is that you can just use that as your picture. And so you can practice and it'll record all of your fishing, like all of your lengths and weights throughout all of your fishing. So it'll continuously just record that. And so you get to keep all of that information. And so that's a really cool feature of the app too.
That's neat. I haven't seen that part of the app. So yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's just a secret tip because we talk to them at the shows and expos, and then we have more time to talk than like
they're our
most
favorite.
people. Yeah, they're really awesome people.
I also like that they show videos on how to use the app and how to record a fish, because that's a question that we get often from individuals that aren't tech savvy, or they don't necessarily know. They have an iPhone but don't really get into the apps and all of that. It's very easy to use, and by having that video where it goes through how to record a fish, it really helps the individuals that don't necessarily know how to use different apps or navigate the phone.
Well, and they have there's all kinds of options as far as like setting up tournaments and participating in tournaments. There's tournaments all across the country. You could have if we could set up a family vacation tournament when we're at family vacation, everybody gives $1. We paid Fish Donkey $20 and we run a family vacation tournament, but one of the really fun things for kids is that it comes with a downloaded noise, and it's the noise of a donkey when every time there's a leader changes. So that's really fun, and it makes Emily laugh every time.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah.
It's like, dang it, somebody caught a big fish. Oh my gosh. So, I guess we were talking all about your, you have all kinds of things going on, but you had also mentioned, are you actually doing tournaments yourself this year then?
Yes. So FM Wallies, we put on 3 tournaments every year. Our spring classic on Pelican Lake, our summer one-day shootout on Big Pine, and then our fall classic on Cormorant. I will be fishing the Big Pine and the Cormorant tournament. I probably shouldn't fish the Pelican Lake tournament. The day 1 is on my wedding anniversary. Day 2 is on my daughter's birthday. I don't think I'll be fishing that. I might be in the doghouse if I attempt to.
They don't want to come with.
Yeah. And then I've got a fishing league, Walleyes R Us fishing league here, based out of town, but we fish all over the Detroit Lakes area. And there's usually 12 events. I think they're doing 10 events this year. And then I hope to get up to Pine Falls this fall. There's a tournament up on the Winnipeg River that's done in October that I'm hoping that I can get up there and fish that. It's been a couple years since I've been up there, so looking forward to get back up there and catch some of those larger Lake Winnipeg greenbacks.
That will be really exciting.
Mm-hmm. They still have like 40 inches of ice up there.
Yeah, but can they get onto the ice?
I don't think so.
I don't even know.
Not that I have heard.
At this point, like, who wants to try, right?
Well, some people just want to get out and fish.
Right?
That is a good question, though. Like bridging this gap between ice and open water. Are you still wearing an ice suit, or did you move on to a rain suit, or what do you got going on?
So I've got both in my boat. I've got my Evolve rain suit. I've got my climate suit. I like the climate suit because of versatility of that suit. I've got the soft shell jacket inside that I'll wear if it starts getting warmer. I still have the outer shell that I'll wear early mornings when it's cold. The bibs, I take the insulated portion out of the climate bibs. I haven't really needed that unless it's like 10 below or something like that. Then I'll shove those back into the bibs. But that's been my go-to suit for early open water fishing and even fall fishing in late October.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I am a little bit surprised to hear that you go from a climate suit to an Evolve, just because climate is like a super, super warm ice suit and Evolve is like the most breathable of the rain jackets.
Yeah.
That's your layering system. I guess maybe this does make sense. You're onto something.
I've got the performance pants that are in my boat as well that pair up nicely with the soft shell jacket. With those being windproof, waterproof, and insulated. But if it's raining out, it's usually my Evolve suit, and I wear a hoodie and pants underneath, and that suit is just so comfortable. You can wear it if you're cold, if you've got proper clothes underneath to keep you warm. But even if it's 90 degrees, humid and raining, where it's just most suits will stick to your skin and just feel gross to be in or uncomfortable. Not the Evolve suit. You could wear that with blue skies and 90 degrees and feel fine. So I really like that suit, and that's why it stays in my boat.
That is awesome. I cannot wait until it's that warm, huh?
I can wait.
Brush fishing for crop.
Everybody's with you. We could see another, 3 to 10 inches of snow over the weekend here. So,
man,
I'm hoping it's just rain and it doesn't get below freezing where it's going to be snow. I know the Dakotas need the moisture, but I don't necessarily want the snow.
Yeah. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed for your sake and everybody's sake there. Oh my gosh. So we were able to talk about a whole bunch of things tonight. But I was thinking for people, if they want to sign up for your youth events, how would they go about doing that or finding information?
Yeah, go to fmwalleyes.com. You can see our events calendar right there. Should be up to date. Otherwise, all of our events are loaded on Facebook too. So FM Walleyes on Facebook, find us there, and our events page will show all the events.
And if they are interested in the adult tournaments, is that the same place to go?
We will be posting that. I don't believe it's live on Fish Donkey yet, so this is sort of a teaser. So
nice.
It's the first time that we're doing a river tournament with river keepers, and should be interesting. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's true. And for people who do want to follow you on all of your adventures this coming season, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, you can find my page, Dave Wasness Outdoors, on social media, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Hoping to publish more stuff on YouTube going forward. But find me on Facebook and Instagram. That
is awesome. I know I will be definitely checking that out. I'm always thinking about our YouTube too, so that's always a good plug. Good for that. And otherwise, thanks for being here tonight, because this has been a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for having me. I had a blast.
Yeah, and to the people at home, thank you guys for being here as well, because you guys are always part of the fun as well. And with that, looking forward to seeing you on next week's edition of Hook, Line, and Striker.
Night, everybody.